There are a handful, I believe 5 Democrats running for the party's nomination for U.S. Senate. Among those is Rachel Fetty Anderson, a Morgantown-based Democrat. She's a former city council member here in Morgantown, whose campaign centers on family policy, public interest law, and working class advocacy. She joins us here in the Encova Insurance Studios this morning. Rachel, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure.
Do me a favor. Pull that mic down right in front of you there. There
Is this
we
a little
go.
better?
Perfect.
Go through the top. Alrighty.
Perfect. Much better.
Good morning, Dave.
Appreciate you stopping by. So you've been involved in local government, but why jump into the race and seek the Democrat Party nomination for U.S. Senate?
You know, I have 4 kids, and they are young adults or heading into young adulthood, and I've acquired them in a number of different ways, and I'm very familiar with the range of opportunities that are available to them. And I became very discouraged because I was really looking for a candidate that would fight for our kids to have more educational opportunities, more work opportunities, more opportunities out in the wider world as they grew up and went to college or decided not to go to college. And I was looking around me, and I was just checking out the candidates that are out there, and I didn't see anybody that was really ready to go to bat for the issues that I think are front of mind for Morgantown's families, for my family, for families in West Virginia. And I was looking for a candidate that I thought could fight for our kids and our families.
Rachel, when you talk about that portfolio and that platform and what you want to do, does that seem more like a state issue to you more so than a federal? Could you be more effective running for state office? Why federal office for that?
You know, I'll tell you what, I am so well represented by my state delegates and senators. And you're right, a lot of these issues are affected deeply by state policy. But at this point, we have a very powerful executive who is using his powers for good or evil, depending on your point of view. And I was really profoundly disheartened by the actions of our federal representatives, our senators, and our U.S. representatives as they went ahead and approved of policies that were deeply affecting us on the local level because they were committed to getting in line and staying in line with the president's policies. And I just don't think those policies are working. I don't think they're working for Americans.
Rachel Fetty Anderson joining us here in studio, Democrat running for U.S. Senate. You come from a large family. Give some folks some insight into your background and how that has shaped the policies you would support in the U.S. Senate.
Sure. So I'm the oldest of 6 children. I grew up in a pretty complicated house, a very liberal father and a very conservative mother who really struggled a lot and would, talk a lot about politics in our day-to-day life. I was born the same year as the Heritage Foundation and ALEC. And, I like to say that those 2 entities have been hard on my tail ever since we were all born. I mean, Aerosmith was born the same year, too. So, it wasn't a year without some bonuses. But, my family decided to, they were in that my mother was very much engaged in that very evangelical world. She was a trad wife before trad wives were a thing. And so when I was 10, she decided to pull all of us out of public school and to homeschool us. And so we really got to experience sort of that high quality Heritage Foundation driven educational experience and sort of that those responsibilities. And so I'm very aware of the difference between how a policy or a set of policies forwarded by a national PAC or a national lobbying organization can look on the outside and then how it's experienced on the inside. So I'm very committed to ensuring that public education is fully funded. I really hope that, I was very disappointed when Rayleigh's Law was not passed. I really hope that we can regulate homeschooling families to some degree to protect the safety of the children in those families because they're often not safe. And I really am committed to making sure that when we talk about our commitment to the Constitution, that we mean the whole Constitution, that the average citizen is not funding the religious expression of another citizen, that we're not instigating policy or creating policy that deeply affects other families' lives who don't share our values or don't share our religious beliefs.
Let's cut to something a little more hard and fast. I want to talk about the federal deficit that we run year after year, the escalating debt. We're about $2 trillion a year in the hole every year. Washington has failed to curb that. Under your leadership in the Senate, what would you do to change it?
Well, I see the deficit as deeply affecting our futures and the future of our children. I was very disheartened by the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. I'm very disheartened by the reality that we're all experiencing, where the budget for the Defense Department, now the Department of War, was increased without really an ask to reach, I think it's 1.4 trillion now. So we are headed into a situation where the deficit is actually going to be compounding. Now, I think that the decisions that are made under that bill and under the executive orders that have been coming out of the White House indicate that there's sort of a magical belief on the part of the administration that somehow if they bomb enough countries, if they collect enough oil from other places, that we'll be able to somehow overcome whatever energy deficits we imagine we have. He'll be able to appease his donors. We'll begin seeing more manufacturing, and that somehow we'll manage to overcome that. But I don't think that the planning involved in these decisions has resulted in prudent budgeting. I don't think the spontaneous actions by the executive to invade various countries at a cost of several $billion a day, I don't think that's helping us out with the deficit. And I think overall, we are going to be paying, and worse, our grandchildren are going to be paying.
Rachel Fetty Anderson is joining us, Democrat running for U.S. Senate. The primary election comes up on May 12th. Your campaign has emphasized putting West Virginians ahead of corporate interests. Can you give me a specific example of what that means?
Sure. So on Inauguration Day in 2025, we watched as, of course, our president was inaugurated, accompanied by many IT professionals and many IT CEOs and AI CEOs who had made substantial donations to his campaign and to his inauguration fund. 3 days later, we watched him sign an executive order that authorized the mobilization of essentially all of the different facets of the federal government to begin speeding along the development of data centers. And 3 months after that, we saw the regulations and law pop up in our own state house, where we watched, under House Bill 2014, we watched our own state House and Senate approve a bill that then stampeded AI centers into West Virginia and blocked FOIA requests from our citizens. And then 3 months after that, we saw an executive order from the White House that mobilized energy production for the purpose of serving these data centers. I think what we're seeing at this point is how the influence of enormous corporate donors who receive tax breaks from local governments who are trying to get jobs and from the federal government, these folks are getting tax breaks, and then rather than doing what old school companies used to do, building a school or building a sidewalk or building housing for their workers, whatever it was they used to do, they're just funneling that into big campaign dollars. And then the campaigns are required to reciprocate. I think it's impossible to imagine a world where that's not the case. And you can see that in some of the different decisions that different campaigns have decided to take. For example, I don't take any corporate money, I don't take any industry money, and I don't take any money from any PAC that supports the actions of any foreign government. And those are choices that campaigns can make to show that they're going to be committed to serving the interests of voters rather than the interests of corporations or industry.
Rachel, I understand running against the Republican agenda. I understand the criticisms of the president, of Senator Capito. But you've got a field in the primary. You've got to get past the other Democrats first. So why you and not another one of your Democratic competitors?
Well, I like to call us the Spicy Five, and whoever wins among this very wide-ranging group of people, I will support that person. I'm asking for folks to vote for me in the primary because I think I'm a little bit closer to the ground in terms of how my public interest practice has really worked very hard to serve individual families in West Virginia. I'm very focused on the actual needs of our residents and trying to either serve those needs through my public interest practice or on a day-to-day basis where I've worked with food pantries and working to make sure that folks have access to shelter. I've seen on the ground how we can step outside of some of these imaginary rules. For example, there are 3 attorneys, in the race, and I think it's wonderful. It is really helpful in a state where we're not represented by any attorneys at this time to consider voting for an attorney who might be able to help us wade through the morass of legislation that needs to be addressed, as well as negotiating in a clearer way that is more beneficial for individual West Virginians. But when it comes to those folks, I'm on the ground working in communities and working in our community to try to make sure that we solve some of our day-to-day problems. And I think I just have a better grip on what some of those issues look like and how they're affected by federal legislation. For example, one of the things that's very important to me is serving children, serving women, and the reduction of healthcare services that are available to women in our state. I'm very aware and working with women in different spots across the state who are desperate for healthcare, who are not able to access it, and whose access is being affected by decisions made at the federal level about which programs to fund and how to allocate those funds. So I'd like to think that I'm the best candidate because I'm the most in touch with the day-to-day needs of West Virginians, and I'm really committed to working on those issues and fighting for individual families and individual communities because we simply have got to come back from this. We can't be the 5th largest producer of energy and 51st in median income and be at the very bottom in terms of maternal health and infant health. We just cannot continue to do this. We can't.
She's Rachel Fetty Anderson, one of the Democrats running for the party's nomination for U.S. Senate. Rachel, thanks for stopping by. Good to see you again and good luck.
Thank you so much, Dave. It's great to see you as always.